After Claudette Colvin refused to give up her seat to a white passenger, she was arrested because of an immoral law saying she could not sit where white citizens sat on the bus. When people decided to boycott the bus because of her and others' arrest, the Montgomery Bus Company had to end bus segregation because they were no longer getting profit from the buses. Claudette Colvin was born on September 5, 1939, and grew up with her 3 sisters and mother. She went to a one-room grade school with a heater in the middle and desks placed around it. Almost everything in Montgomery was segregated, from movie theaters to stores, and even water fountains because of Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were a law system that segregated whites from African Americans. When Claudette turned 14, she started going to Booker T. Washington High School, and this is where Claudette Colvin's story begins. It was like any other day for Claudette Colvin. She got into the Montgomery bus, sat down in the colored section, and started talking with her friends. In Montgomery, it's normal for the bus driver to tell black citizens to get up from their seats and move to the back of the bus for a white passenger. All of the seats designated for whites in the bus were filled, and so were the ones for colored. So when a white woman stepped onto the bus, the driver yelled, "I need those seats," to Claudette Colvin and her friends. All of her friends immediately got up, but Claudette stayed put.
And that is, why didn't you move when asked? And my answer is, I tell them all the time, history had me glued to the seat.
The driver told her again to get out of her seat, but she refused. He then had to call the police to get her off the bus. They drove to the next stop, and police officers entered the bus. They dragged her off as onlookers watched silently, Claudette saying the whole time, "It's my constitutional right." They forced her into the police car and handcuffed her. Then they took her to the adult city jail, even though she was 15. She was fingerprinted and then thrown in a jail cell. Her friends that saw what happened quickly notified her parents, and they drove over to the jail to bail her out. When she got home, the whole neighborhood was waiting. They greeted her and hugged her because they were so proud of what she had done. Soon word got out, and the NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, heard about what she had done. They decided to use her case as the face of the movement to end bus segregation. The NAACP put flyers around the town explaining Claudette's case and how badly she was treated. The flyer called for a boycott of the Montgomery buses. All of the charges against Claudette were dropped, except for violation of the segregation laws. The NAACP saw that Claudette's case was no longer enough to motivate people to boycott the buses. A few months later, Rosa Parks was arrested and charged with the same crimes. Because Claudette Colvin was young and got pregnant a few months after her arrest, the NAACP decided to make Rosa Parks the new face of the movement, since she was an adult, light-skinned, and more respected. The boycott lasted 381 days and involved almost the entire black community of Montgomery. Everyone boycotting the buses used anything they could to get around from neighbors' cars to their own 2 feet. The Montgomery Improvement Association, or MIA, started a carpool for people traveling long distances. When city officials and police wanted to stop the program, they made the MIA carpool illegal in June 1956. People walking to their jobs or school were sometimes insulted by white people passing by. Many boycotters were assaulted as they walked to places. Many black churches were burned down by people angry at the boycott. People like Martin Luther King had dynamite thrown into their yards and cars. 75% of Montgomery's bus riders were black, so they started to lose money quickly because of the boycott. Eventually, the bus company had to shut down many buses and had to raise the price from 10 cents to 15 cents. Finally, it was time to file a lawsuit against the state of Alabama in the case Browder v. Gale. Montgomery attorney Fred Gale filed the case on February 1, 1956. The defendant, William A. Gale, was the mayor of Montgomery at the time. On June 5, 1956, the U.S. District Court ruled that bus segregation was unconstitutional. The city disagreed with the ruling and appealed it, sending it to the Supreme Court.
You can never whip these boys if you don't keep you and them separate. I found that out in Birmingham. You've got to keep the white and the black separate.
While the black community waited to hear from the Supreme Court, they continued the boycott. On November 13, 1956, the Supreme Court ended bus segregation in the state of Alabama. Because of the Supreme Court ruling, bus segregation was made illegal, therefore allowing African Americans and whites to ride the bus together without being separated.